Are you a liar? Hey, there's no need to lie about it. According to scientists, we all lie from time to time. And the funny part is, you're going to lie again soon. It's been reported the average human lies about 10 times a week, and that we've been lying since we're about 6 months old. So we're going to take a look at this human ability to lie and why we do it. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. My name's Paul Kelly. I'm a former director of Versace and Vercelli Garage Doors, and I run a warranty business called P. Kelly Warranties Limited. We provide extended warranty cover for these garage door companies, and collectively these two garage door companies have installed over 200,000 garage doors in the UK. We provide the extended cover for all the different components used. What we don't cover is accidental damage. There's nothing wrong with the garage doors when they are first installed, but during their life they're going to come under all sorts of abuse. And when an accident happens, people very often try and hide that accident and blame it all on the garage door. Scientists tell us that as a species, humans have become exceptionally proficient at lying. So it makes our job a whole lot more difficult in the warranties department, because scientists also tell us that as good as we are at telling lies, we are equally bad at detecting them. So we rely on a thing called forensics, and we work backwards to expose the truth. And as warranty providers, that's what we do too. We train our engineers to be skilled accident investigators. And these investigators can always tell when they examine a door who is telling the truth and who is not. We recently come under fire by the BBC Watchdog and Rogue Traders show. The BBC's story was that a number of customers had contacted them after their garage doors had apparently just fallen apart. The BBC noticed their garage door company's name had changed a few times, so the BBC's show was based on the theme that we supply faulty doors, and then when complaints start mounting up, we close the business and start under a new name. The show had 3 points to it. The first, they had some customers making various claims. They also had an expert to support them. The second focal point is why we changed our names and the history of the company. And third point was when they filmed one of our teams, secretly filmed one of our teams fitting the garage. So we're going to take a look more closely at this Rogue Traders report, and we're going to start right now with their customer complaints. We're also going to look at this human behaviour of telling lies. Lying's quite a difficult skill. It's not a skill we're born with. We have to learn it. And the more we lie, the better we'll get at it. And the more frequently we will lie in the future. Lying is something that few species can do effectively, although scientists have found evidence of lying elsewhere in the animal kingdom. For example, Koko the gorilla, who is able to understand sign language, once ripped her sink out of the wall. And when her handlers confronted her about it, she signed that her pet cat did it and pointed at Koko's pet kitten. But it seems no species is as proficient at lying as us humans. Which makes life twice as hard for insurance and warranty providers, because what we tend to find is that after an accident people make all sorts of bizarre claims in what appears to be every effort to place the blame on anything or anyone other than themselves. With some claims it's relatively easy to spot lies when the information received borders on amusing to extremely funny. For example, a man from San Francisco ran his car into a telegraph pole. When the police questioned him, his description of the event was as follows: "The pole was approaching my car when I attempted to swerve out of the way of it, and it struck me." Was he lying? Well, actually, no. He was just placing the blame on the telegraph pole. If you was an insurance or warranty provider and a claim like that dropped on your desk, you can be excused for looking at the claim and saying, "Really? Do you expect me to believe that?" As bizarre as claims like this may appear, it's not untypical of these sort of claims to come through our warranty business every day of the week. Here's an example of one of our claims, and see if you can spot the similarity to the telegraph pole. A lady, when operating her electronic garage door, brought the door down onto an obstacle like a bucket. And when the BBC interviewed her about the accident, her description of the events were as follows: "I was closing my garage door when all of a sudden my door came crashing down and attacked me." Was she lying? Well, actually, yes. because in this case she'd removed some evidence when placing the blame on the garage door. The biggest problem for the BBC is they didn't realise the people they were dealing with were distorting the facts, placing the blame on the garage door. Our investigations had already established these were all situations where the user had induced the damage themselves. Matters went from bad to worse for the BBC because they didn't detect that these people were lying, so they didn't get themselves the appropriate expert. What they actually needed was an expert in accident investigation. Not only did their expert have no accident investigation skills whatsoever, he also wasn't from the domestic garage door industry. He had more of an industrial background. So he didn't know what he was looking for. And from this point forward, the BBC were going to make the extremely unfortunate mistake of lambasting the garage door manufacturers by unwittingly supporting a number of fake warranty claims. Let's focus on the two main customer complaints on the entertainment show. Maybe you didn't realise that the Rogue Traders is an entertainment show. Well, it is.
Are you ready for the show? Roll up, roll up.
Yes, we're ready for the show. And first up is the drummer teacher. Let's see what he had to say. This is a classic case of a customer who hadn't read the user instructions, so he didn't know how to use the remote control button. In fact, he didn't know how to use his garage door at all.
The control horn also has two other controls at the bottom of the key fob, which is a locking mechanism. The padlock button can sometimes be pressed by mistake. This, once pressed, will lock all control functions. Your up and down will now not work. It may be the case that this button has been pressed by mistake and you think that your garage door is not working. However, the simple fix is to release the locking mechanism on your control key fob. You do this by pressing the square button. Your door will now open and shut as before.
Always read the instructions manual. This guy turned his garage into a music studio, and there's only one way into his garage and one way out. So in case there was a power cut, he had an emergency crank handle that he could use from either inside or outside the garage in case there was an emergency. The trick is if you're going to go in and close yourself inside the garage, you take the handle with you, right? Well, you would have thought so. That's precisely what the user instruction tells you to do. But he left his handle inside his house. The poor chap then set about locking himself inside the garage with his key fob by pushing the wrong buttons. If only he'd read those instructions, the drama would have been over before it even began. We know this is what he'd done because there wasn't a power cut and he'd isolated the wall switch too. By not understanding how to cancel the lockdown feature on his handset, he called his girlfriend to fetch the emergency handle and open the door from outside. The handle was in his house. The problem here is that she hadn't read the user guide either, so things were only going to get worse from this point forward. When you wind a mechanism up the wrong way, you're very likely to cause damage, and that's precisely what she did. His next call was to the fire brigade, and by the time they arrived, the door had been counterwound by his girlfriend to such a degree that by now it wouldn't budge. So the fire brigade had to force the door open, and when they released this force, the door came crashing down. And this is precisely what would happen when a manual override has been totally counterwound the wrong way. Now this lovely door was wrecked. In the morning, his claim arrives in our warranty office. The customer demands a new door. When the drummer teacher was informed he'd damaged his own door with an account of the user-induced damage to the door, his next phone call was to the BBC, and he was invited as one of the main characters on the Rogue Traders show. So let's take a look at what he had to say to the BBC right now.
I was teaching a lesson. I was just going to pop to the toilet and couldn't open the door at all.
Dave's garage door had jammed and left him and his student trapped inside. He called to his girlfriend to come and use a lever to open it from the outside, but that didn't work either.
Next call was to the fire brigade. They actually had to prise it open from the bottom, so as soon as we got out, it just shut.
Of course, as a warranty provider, we know the true circumstances that unfolded here. Next up is a customer who said when she went to use the door, it just came crashing down by itself and that the curtain split at the top. We know categorically it's absolutely impossible for this to happen by itself. The only way the curtain can split in this very precise way is after the door has been in collision with an obstacle. It's all to do with kinetic energy moving back up the curtain when the door is trying to reach the ground level but prevented to do so by an obstacle. That's what causes the curtain to break. Enter the BBC's expert to examine the damage after the accident. Only by the time he got there, the obstacle had been removed and there was no mention of what had actually happened. Yes, it's him, the guy I mentioned earlier. And because he doesn't have the relevant skills, he's about to get this totally wrong. We made a replica model of the ladies' door in our R&D centre, and I'm going to show you how an accident like this really happens. Here we go. And that is what happened. Now that you know how this accident really happened, and we can do this in court because we can reproduce this type of damage and this type of accident as many times as we need to. But let's see how entirely different this lady's story was to the BBC.
The door literally just come apart and just fell to the floor, and we can't use it now. It's just totally useless.
This time, Christine's door slats crashed to the ground and got stuck, so now she can't open or shut her garage door at all. To find out what happened, we called on garage door guru John Impney.
There is a very serious and dangerous fault in a door which I have not seen the like of which for a new door ever before. The laths have become separated, like so. My feeling is that it is of faulty manufacture and the entire curtain should be replaced.
The expert hasn't got a Scooby of what's going on. The BBC are unwittingly actually supporting a false warranty claim. Nobody even considers to challenge the lady's story. And so they tear into the integrity of the manufacturer instead. They didn't stop for one moment to consider that consumers do not always tell them the truth. But when you operate in the warranty sector, you've got to really know your stuff. And I can tell you, we do. It's the BBC's responsibility to ensure the expert they select has the appropriate skills and correct qualifications. But the BBC Rogue Traders are the self-styled SAS of consumer protection, the champion of individual right against corporate might. So challenging consumer stories is not what they do. After all, they're in search of their own story, and they always attack the manufacturer. And in this instance, they also attacked the warranty provider. BBC got this wrong, very wrong. Moving on to the company's history, you're probably not going to be surprised to learn the BBC got this entirely wrong too. The reasons our company's names changed was all to do with safety legislation changes. These were changes we opposed. Isati grew into one of the biggest garage door manufacturers in the UK and had depots in most main cities. Isati installed over 150,000 domestic garage doors, and these doors had a remarkable safety record. Isati owed much of its excellent safety record to the secondary safety laser beam system, referred to as a magic eye. It prevented door collision accidents from happening, collisions like you've seen on the Rogue Trader show, especially when the user wasn't paying attention. This single cell beam was located 6 inches from the ground, and if the beam was broken by an obstacle or a person beneath the door would not close and accidents couldn't happen. All this was to change in 2014 when the EU changed the legislation and outlawed the Magic Eye safety system. They said the system would be fallible if someone was operating the door while he was straddled over the beam. The new EU legislation required garage door manufacturers to use a different system known as a safety edge. This is an impact sensor located in the bottom slat which detects an obstacle when it actually comes into contact with it. We had many objections to this change of safety system. One of our main concerns is that many of these safety edges were battery operated. This would require the user to change their batteries in the safety edge. Sometimes they'd need to change batteries up to 3 times a year. Just like that bleeping smoke detector, changing batteries is a job that people often delay. Delaying changing batteries would mean the door would have no secondary safety system for long periods. There was bound to be an increase in reports of door accidents. Isati refused to comply to this new EU legislation, and in 2015, following a caution, the company was forced into closure. When a new component line was established that included the EU safety edge, we reopened under the new name of Vercelli Garage Doors, and with a new component production line set up, we fell in line with the EU's new safety edge system. As predicted, people were delaying changing their batteries in the secondary safety system. It wasn't long before accidents began to occur all over the UK. All UK manufacturers were affected, and not just us. Doors were being brought down onto obstacles, and not everybody was telling us the truth. Every week we were repairing more doors than we were fitting. In every case we found the batteries in the EU safety edge had run flat, the system had reverted to hold to run, and the door had then been closed onto an obstacle where the user wasn't paying attention. Many different people use a garage door, and what we very often find is that the person reporting the accident isn't necessarily the person who had the accident. Maybe the son, the daughter, the wife, the husband, the builder, the neighbour had told them the door had just damaged itself, when clearly it was not the case. If a member of your family tells you the door just broke apart by itself, you're advised to challenge their story. I guarantee there's something they're not telling you. You could find yourself making a fake or even fraudulent warranty claim. The EU's safety edge system is not ideally suited for a garage door. Using this new system was not the best decision, something we maintained all along. We're sorry to our customers that we were forced into using it. We worked around the clock to get engineers back to everybody to repair doors that have been involved in user-induced accidents. But with more and more accidents occurring all over the UK, the situation couldn't go on. We had no more faith in the EU safety edge. The user is the primary safety, and the safety edge is a secondary safety system. It's designed to stop the door when the user wasn't paying attention. Without batteries, this system wasn't working. This was the problem. Our other system, the Safety Eye, didn't require batteries, and it always provided this secondary safety backup. Some manufacturers were trying to overcome this industry-wide problem by replacing the battery system with a hard-wired system. They were doing this by using a dangerous expandable bungee cord connected to the safety edge. It's illustrated here by an arrow dangling about loose in the garage. A child could get seriously hurt or hung by this dangerous cord. It's an accident waiting to happen. It failed our choke hazard tests, and we're simply not going to use this dangerous cord. Following an aggressive legal attack on our organisation, we were forced to place our company into administration in the High Court, Strand, London, and production once again grinded to a halt. Placed under enormous pressure to find an alternative secondary safety system to this safety edge, and since one didn't exist at that time, we needed to literally invent a new system that the machine directives and the EU would accept. So Vercelli turned into inventors to solve an industry-wide problem affecting all UK manufacturers. Whilst Vercelli was in administration searching for this solution, the High Court judge approved that the son, Graham Kelly, could set up and run a support business called Roman Garage Doors. This was to provide continued employment, to safeguard employees, and to ensure customers would be supported. The breakthrough for a new comprehensive safety system came when Graham Kelly was in a hotel lift. An old man was rushing for the lift, and as the lift doors closed, Graham put his hand between them and they instantly opened without contact in his hands. Lift doors use a similar safety system to our old faithful Magic Eye beam system, but it's much more comprehensive in a lift, with beams covering the entire opening. Turning our attention to laser beam technology used in the lift and escalator industry, we developed a brand new system that would protect the entire garage door opening with a web of beams. We presented our new safety system for testing and for certification, and it was approved. We named this new system LightGuard, We'd just solved an industry problem, bringing a new generation of garage door safety when the BBC Rogue Traders appeared on the scene. The BBC Rogue Traders weren't interested in the real history. They didn't appear interested in the facts at all. So here's how they presented it.
Buy a door, the door fails, the company bails. All in all, Esati, a little bit tatty. Esati Garage Doors was run by Paul Kelly with the help of his son Graham. It went bust and was replaced with Vaselli Limited, and before long complaints were rolling in for that too. After a year, Vaselli closed down, leaving lots more customers with broken garage doors and useless warranties. But then hold on, if this company's gone bust, why are we bothering to chase them? Surely there's nothing left to chase. Not so, because while Esati and Vaselli Limited may have gone pop, there is a new Kelly project on the block, Roman Garage Doors. It started mid-July 2016, 10 days before Vaselli Limited went into administration.
Gobsmacked at what they said. Statements like these are an example of what is referred to as the dogmatic approach, where the BBC very cleverly present their opinions in such a way that the audience believe what they're saying. They believe that what they're actually hearing is factual. It's where the media are asserting or insisted upon ideas or principles, especially when unproven or unexamined in an imperious and arrogant manner. This type of presentation, as false as it may be, is extremely powerful to the point that the false account becomes what the viewer erroneously believes. This is achieved by presenting opinions disguised as facts, cleverly diverting the viewer's process of thought to a false conclusion. Moving on to the third point of their show, towards the end of their show, they secretly film a team fitting a door. They were secretly filming a young apprentice who normally works with his father Kevin. The senior engineer Kevin was off sick that day. Not wanting to let the customer down, the apprentice said he felt totally confident he could fit the door with another young lad from the factory. But with the BBC laying in wait with their film crew already, you could say this was now the perfect storm. There's no doubt the apprentice has much to learn, especially in terms of site safety and communicating with the customer. This was his first attempt at fitting a door without the skilled engineer guiding him. We agree he forgot to install the security screws, but in regards to the door stopping by itself, this is an industry standard thermal safety device inside the motor. It's designed to prevent the motor overheating after excessive and continual use. We're surprised the BBC expert wasn't aware of this. He should have been. With regards to the security screws, if they had been installed, the BBC's expert would not have been able to lift the door up at all. This would have been rectified at point of inspection. In terms of integrity, we assure all of our products have been tested and certified to withstand wind and storm forces. What you will have noticed is the expert being completely confused with the new light guard system. Here's what he had to say.
I'm intrigued what he's got in that tube, actually.
What else can I do?
Oh no.
Oh, what all fell out then?
Don't do that.
I hope that stuff wasn't valuable.
Yes, he was a bit clumsy, but no, they wouldn't have seen this before, because this is our brand new light guard safety system. Vaselli had made huge advances, improving safety in the UK door industry. We did this just as the time Rogue Traders came. Shame the BBC didn't come and talk to us in a proper fashion, because if they had, they would have learned about a very serious door safety problem within the UK industry, and they could have used a different tactic to get every manufacturer within the industry to invest more in remote control garage door safety. The matter will now be passed over to our legal representatives who specialise in libel and defamation matters. They will also be asked to contact the Broadcasting Standards Commission with our complaints about this Rogue Traders report and the way in which it was presented. If you're a customer who's recently placed an order with Vaselli and then you've come across this Rogue Traders report, don't be confused. Be reassured you've made a very, very good decision to purchase probably the safest roller garage door in the UK. It's going to be trial by television, then that trial ought to be fair, but it's not. It's one-sided, and if Rogue Traders wants us viewers to make armchair judgments, it has the responsibility to show both sides of the story. So, thank you very much for watching our side of the story, because trust me, there's always two sides to every story. The BBC got this one wrong, very wrong. And that, by the way, is the truth.